Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I want to use the next 20 minutes to show you how compassionate communication can heal relationships. My name is Linda Kroll. I'm a therapist, mediator, attorney, Chopra Certified Teacher of Meditation, Yoga, and Ayurveda. And for the last 35 years, I've helped individuals, couples, and family learn these skills. I'm glad you're here. We're going to jump right in. But first, I'd like you to think about a relationship that you would like to heal. And let's see what we can do it in the next 20 minutes. If you're in a relationship where you're not sure what you want to do and you can't really communicate, or you're stonewalling each other in this relationship, what we're going to talk about today works with any relationship, works with parent-children relationship, works with coworkers relationship, works with any relationship that you have. You can learn how to compassionately communicate. So think about it through that lens. A lot of times we're either the couple in the therapy or we're the therapist or coach. I want to give you tools today, whether you're here for your own reasons or you work with individuals or couples in conflict. So let's ask the magic wand question. What do you want in this relationship? And if you're a therapist or a coach, you want to ask your clients, what do they want? Do they want a more intimate relationship? Are they secretly thinking of a separation? Are they wanting a divorce? Are they not sure? Most of the time, couples vacillate between yes, no, maybe. We have to help them compassionately communicate about all the feelings that they're having. Because sometimes there's the question, do I want to stay or do I want to go? And if you don't communicate about it, you struggle losing sleep at night, being confused, feeling anxious, feeling angry, distant, walled. You get the picture. That's not what we want for you. A lot of times I've found in my practice that many couples stay when they should leave, and others leave when they could stay, but they don't know how. And the reason they don't know how is because they don't know how to compassionately communicate. And here's what we learn in compassionate communication. We learn how to be your best self, let go of your limiting beliefs and judgments, unburden pain from the past, and relate from your heart. There's conflict in every relationship. Sometimes there's abuse, sometimes addiction, mental illness, ADD can cause problems. If you don't know what an HSP, a highly sensitive person is, it can cause communication challenges. You can argue about money, sex, parenting, responsibility, affairs. If you're dealing with your children, you can argue about too much phone time and not enough presence and their attitudes. If you're talking to your parents, you could talk about them being controlling. There's a lot of issues that come up that cause conflict. If it's a couple, I always feel that families need not be broken, but can be peacefully and respectfully restructured. And the way we restructure families is by helping them talk about everything, even an ending. A lot of times people come to me or possibly come to you for marriage counseling, but you know one or the other or both has one foot out the door perhaps. So instead of not speaking about it, you learn how to compassionately share your feelings so that all issues can be discussed. And that's part of compassionate communication too. So let's take a breath. And I'm just going to tell you about myself a minute. I was in a happy marriage with my college sweetheart, and then our communication broke down, which led to a very long separation and a painful divorce. And from my personal experience and also my professional experience as an internal family systems therapist, mediator, and attorney, I put it all together and I used all my tools and techniques from my law degree to my mediation, to my internal family systems, to my Chopra Center training. And I wrote the book, Compassionate Mediation, How to Add Passion to Your Marriage or Compassion to Your Divorce. And Dick Schwartz, who's the founder of IFS, said that it is relationship healing at its best. In compassionate mediation is we talk about compassionate communication. And if you go to lindakrollbook.com, you can get a free chapter, which will go more into depth of what we're talking about today. And I also wrote the book, Compassionate Divorce, Changing the Face of Divorce One Heart at a Time. When you learn to compassionately communicate, you can have a kind, respectful, peaceful restructuring of your family. This isn't about how do I revive a marriage or a relationship that's moribund and on its way out. It's really about how do I authentically, compassionately, curiously, courageously show up and talk about everything. It's about being your best self, letting go of all those limiting beliefs and judgments you have about your partner, you have about yourself, or whoever you're thinking of right now. You have to unburden the pain from the past, because probably what's happening in the present is triggering something in the past. Instead of allowing yourself to be triggered, you unburden that pain. When you do all that, you can relate from your heart. And that's where the miracles happen. So let's go to step one. What does it mean to be your best self? Well, Rumi has said that we're not just the drop in the ocean, we're the entire ocean in the drop. And self is that calm, compassionate, spiritual center inside of you, where you look at your life not from the parts that get triggered, you look at it with more awareness, consciousness, presence. That's what I want to help you do. Because when you're in self, you are calm and can make clear decisions. You can be compassionate for yourself and your partner. You can be confident in asking for what you want and need, connected to each other, even if you're getting a divorce, courageous as you communicate, and you can co-create reasonable compromises because you stay curious and non-judgmental about what's happening. This is what I tell everyone that comes to my office, whether they're coming for individual counseling, couples counseling, or divorce mediation. I give them my 2-minute internal family systems blurb. We all have a healthy self, capital S self. And when we're in self, we're calm, clear, and compassionate. You know those moments? They're just moments. We're not in self very much. We're in parts. And in IFS, they call them exiled parts, managing parts, and extreme parts. But the exiles are those parts that we learned in childhood might not get our needs met. So for instance, just to use some props, we all have an inner child, okay? And sometimes when we feel sad, hurt, scared, vulnerable, and some of us pushed aside our anger too, because it wasn't safe to be angry. But this is the what about me? Who's going to love and care for me the way I need? And instead we go out and we manage. And sometimes we're trying to be nice, pleasing, and caretaking, or look cool, or blaming and judgmental. Sometimes people try to look cool and not talk about their exiled feelings. This is my codependent doll. I bought her this way, looking exhausted, taking care of everybody else, but not taking care of herself. And this is how people try to manage. But then when they can't manage, they get extreme in some way. They go get addicted to things, depressed, go put up walls, have affairs, get resentful, call an attorney to get divorced, because they're trying to protect themselves in the way they know how. And I don't know about you, but as a couples counselor and certainly as a mediator, this is how people come to my office sometimes. And this is the parts that are doing the talking. They're angry, they're judgmental, they're blaming. So we know we need to thank our parts for running interference. And then we connect to that best aspect of ourselves, that calm, compassionate, curious center. And we talk about our pain, our hurt, and our sadness compassionately. Here are some ways to get to self. There's a lot of different ways. You can journal, you can meditate, you can go for a walk. It's really practicing your own self-care. And that is what's paramount, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't communicate compassionately because you're burned out, you're exhausted, you're angry, you're resentful. Take a deep breath. And taking a deep breath, a belly breath, is a way to get to self, because you calm all those parts down with the judgments and the anger and the resentment and the fear and the hurt. You bring in a little more peace. You bring in a little more calm. You bring in a little more self energy. So the first thing to do to compassionately communicate is make sure you're in your best self, not relating from your parts. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And if you're really feeling hurt, but what your partner's getting is a lot of this, then nobody's listening to each other. And that's not working. I want to help you communicate better. So it's not what you're doing, it's who you are being. Are you being your best self? And if not, I'd love to help you. Number 2 is let go of your limiting beliefs. And you know what I mean by that. People come into my office all the time and they want help for themselves, but instead what they do is they sit down and tell me what's wrong with their partner or their mother or their child. I tell them that I can listen to them tell me their story, but I could also offer them another way to look at their story so that they can change how they feel about what they're telling me. Part of it is looking at their beliefs and where they got them. Now, we're all grumpy sometime, right? We all have bad moods. We all get into bad situations where we don't always speak from our higher self. But a lot of times, people, especially people in a relationship, pretend that they're fine. They come in, everything's fine. But secretly, they're holding on to their old stories. He always does this. She never does that. Their frustrations from years ago that they haven't let go of yet. Their resentments, their judgments. When they're sitting on all that, it's really hard to communicate because you're trying to balance all of the boxes of all the stuff you're still carrying. When you let go of your limiting beliefs, you can change the filters through which you judge your partner, through which you judge your mother-in-law, through which you judge your child. You can change the filters and start over. You don't have to judge them by what happened in the past or what you're projecting in the future. You can stay in the present. And you can begin to lower the walls around your heart because those walls are helping you stay safe. They are helping you not be hurt, but they're also keeping out the love that somebody could be giving you. Instead of carrying around the baggage and looking through the dirty filters with the walls that are protecting you, you can go back to your higher self. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And in our human experience, we get triggered. Our parts get triggered. Our egos get triggered. Our wounds get triggered. But I do believe we were born enlightened with all the spiritual wisdom we need. And now we just have to let go of everything we made up in between our birth and now. So let go of what you think you already know and start with a beginner's mind in this relationship so that you can create something new. When you do that, you can break free from the old patterns that you're in. And I see so many people that are in patterns, disgusted, resentful, withholding, angry, blaming. We need to break those habits. They're not working. They're keeping you as a victim. And some people may like being a victim, but it's not a good place to stay. I want to make you the hero of your story, not the victim in it. And you have to change the way you look at it from your higher self and question your beliefs. Byron Katie does a great work on the work, where she said 85% of the problems that we have, where she says 85% of the problems that we have in life is because we believe our own thoughts. If you write down a judgment of someone and you ask yourself, is it true? Like, he never does what I ask him to and he doesn't love me. Okay, maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. But when you say it, you think it's true. The second question, is it 100% true? No, not necessarily. Third, how do you feel when you think that thought? And four, how would you be if you could let that thought go? Much better. Instead of being resentful and hurt and shut down, you could turn it around and says, my husband does love me, even if he doesn't do the things I want him to do the way I want them to do them. Or my husband does love me and he shows it in his own ways. But there's different thoughts you can think, and those different thoughts will change your beliefs, which will change your feelings. So see what you can do with that. Now let's talk about healing pain from the past. All the time when I'm working with an individual or couple and they've got a bad relationship going on, it's usually because something in the present moment is triggering a memory from the past. And when you take the time to do your own inner work, you learn what's hurting you, what's making you sad, what's scaring you. And from your higher self, you speak for those parts instead of from the parts that are protecting you, because you're going to heal the pain from your past. We all have some kind of dysfunctional family. That's me as a little girl. And my father was manic depressive. He was a very loving man. He was a very funny man, but he yelled a lot. So I grew up afraid of anger, afraid of my husband's anger, afraid of my anger. And I learned how to be a card-carrying codependent. I wanted to take care of everybody else's needs, but not take care of my own. And if you look at this cartoon, it's one person in a convention of children from functional families. And the reason I suggest that is because there's dysfunction in many families, even perfect families, you have the implied caveat that you need to be perfect, which you can't be. Let's assume we all come into our relationship with wounds. And if you begin to think about the other person's family of origin, you get a context for how they were brought up, whether it's your husband, your wife, your mother-in-law, your coworker, you can see that they may not have learned the skills that you're looking for them to use with you because they're stuck in the patterns that they grew up with. But giving you that perspective lets you have more compassion for their inner child so that you can speak more kindly to them no matter what they choose to do. Even when people are turned away from each other, there is still that inner child yearning to connect, yearning to be seen and attended to. What you can do is process your feelings and learn to acknowledge your contribution to the relationship, even with your best intentions. We're all doing the best we know how to do, but you can do better. And when you can do better, there leads to deep healing and forgiveness. And that forgiveness is very important because often it's forgiving yourself. A lot of times, especially if someone's been in a relationship for a long time and they're finally getting around to deciding if they want to stay or go, rather than being present to making up that decision, they start beating themselves up for how long they've stayed or wondering if their partner was a narcissist and they're suffering from narcissistic abuse, which is terrible. However, if you can be empathetic with yourself and recognize you have parts that are hurting and tell yourself that the future is going to be different. You're going to learn a new way to communicate. You don't have to recriminate about the past. And then when you move forward in your relationship, you practice the miracle of empathy. And what that means is when you're talking, let's say to your partner, instead of saying, you never load the dishwasher the way I want you to, and you never listen to me, and you, whatever the you message is, your partner is not listening. They're not listening to the judgment. They're fact checking. They're thinking how they could criticize you. So when you practice the miracle of empathy, use I messages. When I see the dishes in the sink, I feel sad, period. And you don't blame them. You just state your feelings. And then you learn how to understand their feelings. He may feel when you demand how I load the dishwasher and don't let me do it my way, I feel sad or hurt. You have to learn how to listen to each other's pain, sadness, and fear, and then negotiate behavior changes while you're cognizant of the inner child underneath. You're aware that there's some pain, sadness, fear that's making someone act out in ways that are causing conflict. You can come from your higher self and really bring compassionate, witnessing awareness into what's ever happening with empathy, which will change the dynamics. And then what happens is you relate from your heart. Take a breath with me here. That's the best, is when you can relate to someone from your heart, not your head, not your judgments, not your regurgitated litany of all the things they've done wrong. But you really can open your heart to a new relationship, which I hope you do now. Think about the person that you started this with a few minutes ago and see if you could come from your highest self, let go of your limiting beliefs and judgments, unburden the pain from the past and not bring it into the present or project it into the future. Take a deep breath. Can you open your heart to a new way of relating? Because if you can, you will begin to compassionately communicate. The needs of the heart are attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. You and the other party both have these needs. You may have different love languages, but you both have these needs. I hope you remember the power of thank you and I'm sorry. When you're practicing empathy, you are sorry. You hear someone's pain, you understand someone's pain, and you're sorry for their pain. Sometimes you're sorry for something you did or didn't do. And sometimes you're sorry for their existential suffering that you have compassion for, and you relay that. Don't forget to say thank you. There are so many people that come to my office and one member will say, well, I thought she understood how much I appreciate her. And she'll say, he never tells me, or she never says anything. So learn to say thank you. In fact, do it today. See how that changes your relationship. And let's talk about forgiveness, which is often challenging, But I think forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. You don't even have to converse with the other party to see them from the framework of they're doing the best they could. You may need to have some boundaries. You may not even want to be in relationship with them anymore. But you don't have to keep telling yourself the stories that just exacerbate your pain. And one way to do that is to put a spiritual graft, Graft, on your ego's wounds. Just like Byron Katie said, 85% of our pain is because we believe our thoughts. I'm going to suggest that most of our pain comes from our ego's beliefs, judgments, expectations, need to be in control. Someone once said that expectations are premeditated resentments. So if you're expecting someone else to be different, they won't be. You can change how you relate to them. That will change you and how you feel, and it could change your relationship. But let's say you have a wound that you're suffering because life is not giving you what you thought it would have, could have, should have. Here's the graft. Start with gratitude. Gratitude for what is. If you're in a marital situation, gratitude for the life you shared, the love you've shared, the children you share, the home you share. Let's go to gratitude for something. And then RA is radical acceptance. That means you don't argue with what is, you just accept it. Now, it doesn't mean you can't change it, you can't make your own decisions, but fighting against what is a losing battle. So if you radically accept with gratitude, the next piece would be to forgive, but start with yourself. Forgive yourself. You've done the best you knew how to do. You can do it differently. You can start to do that. And the fifth part is trust. Now, trust could be in the process. If you're in counseling, trust that you may have to get through some difficult conversations before healing happens. If you're in the middle of a separation or divorce, trust your mediator, your attorney, or God to lead you in the best direction. And trust your higher self. The more you practice some of those ways to get to self, meditate, walk, do yoga, pray, journal, the more you come into your higher self, the more you'll trust your higher self to be able to come into a situation with those C words: calm, clear, compassionate, connected, curious, creative, confident, courageous, and grateful. And then you have healing for your wound. And then when you do that, you can think about the 5 steps you need to get what you want to need. And those are: remember what you want to need. Most of the time, certainly if we're codependent, we've forgotten what we want to need. We're so busy taking care of everyone else that we forget to think about and then put into our intentions and put out to the universe, what do we want? Not what we don't want. We think that a lot. Think about what you do want and start to put that into the universe. And then here's a big one: know you deserve it. And if you still have unresolved pain from the past, you may not know you deserve it. You may feel guilty. You may feel shame. So do your inner work to know that you are a being of light and love, and you deserve all the happiness in the world. And then ask for what you want. So if you remember it and if you know you deserve it, then when you ask for it, it becomes a request. It's not a whine. It's not a judgment. It's not an ultimatum. It's not a complaint. It's just a request. And then, especially if you're codependent, be willing to receive. We're givers. It's hard to receive. But allow yourself to receive and then be grateful. And practice those steps to get more of what you want. If there's a divorce, if the conflict breaks down and you can't communicate, we can change the face of divorce one heart at a time. We really can. We can resolve conflicts by bringing in that self-energy, by creating a compassionate relationship with empathy, with understanding, with changing your perspective. You can explore your options from your higher self, understand your rights and finances, and begin to create a new and better relationship. And when you do that, you can start thinking outside the box for new possibilities. Maybe your communication would be better if you went on a date night, or you got some individual or couples counseling. Maybe you need a financial planner or someone to help you communicate about money because your parts get in the way and you can't seem to get through that conversation. Whether you know about a post-nuptial agreement, separation, legal separation, or divorce, I can help you with that in compassionate mediation. When you talk about what an ending would look like with compassion, you often can create a new beginning. And that's what I want to help you do. You can connect with empathy, even if you're getting a divorce. You can be mindful. You can be conscious. You can come from your higher self. You can ask for what you want and need. You can be empathetic. You can stay grateful. You can negotiate a new and better relationship, no matter what form it takes in the future, when you're using compassionate communication. And you can have a compassionate divorce. I've worked with many couples, and they travel together, and they go to their daughter's college graduation together, and they have parties together, and they have holidays together. Just because a union ends doesn't mean it can't transform. And I guess because my divorce was so painful, it's been my life's mission to find a way where people can part ways and still be compassionate and still be inclusive and not have to give up their children or their life, and eventually find partners that can fit into that paradigm, because everyone's learned how to compassionately communicate. That's my dream. I'll put it out there. So to do that, get the information and support you need. If you're a coach or a therapist and want to learn how to do what I do, I have a training, a roadmap, a certification, and hopefully this is the sign you've been looking for. Compassionate communication. It's a skill I can learn, I can practice, and look what happens. Miracles happen. You can also get a free chapter of my book at lindacrollbook.com. It explains more of what we're talking about, self and parts, and how to communicate. If you're a therapist or coach or someone who works with individuals or couples in conflict, I want to help you help them go from heartache to hope to healing to happiness. And you can get a free video and roadmap of the whole process, which is something that looks like that, on how to be your best self, create a compassionate relationship, explore your options, understand your rights and finances, and create the relationship you desire and deserve. There's also a compassionate communication care kit. That guided meditation in there is the meditation I do with all of my clients when they come to my office. It's a way to breathe, center, and be compassionate with yourself. Notice your thoughts and feelings. Notice your pain and sadness. Notice the ways you defend yourself. Notice the ways you act out. But then it has you go to the top of the mountain where you leave your parts and just access that higher wisdom that's inside of you, that deep spiritual knowing, that, as Rumi says, that oceanic version of yourself. And then you send compassion to the person at the top of their mountain with whom you have conflict. And it's in that field of compassion that people can learn how to relate. And with that thought, there is a quote by Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh. To reconcile conflicting parties, you must have the ability to understand the suffering of both sides. If we take sides, it's impossible to do the work of reconciliation. And humans want to take sides. And that is why the situation gets worse and worse. Are there people who are still available to both sides? They need not do much. They need only do one thing. Go to one side and tell about the suffering endured by the other side. And go to the other side and tell all about the suffering endured by this side. This is the chance for peace. This is how we change the situation. And if you're working with individuals or couples, this is how you would do it. You would get the roadmap, and as you get the roadmap, you would have the opportunity to learn how to do that. I have a certification process. I'm starting a new group for people that are in transition. So please reach out, message me. I'll answer all of your questions. I'm so grateful to you for being here. Please know that I'm here to support you. Thank you again for being here, and I look forward to staying connected. And remember, take a deep breath to connect to your highest self. When you notice your thought come up, don't believe it necessarily. If you're feeling pain, let that part of you know you're going to heal it, and go to your heart and have compassion for yourself first. You compassionately communicate with every part of yourself. And as you compassionately communicate with every part of yourself, you will then be, as Sark says, a full cup of love or compassion, sharing your overflow with the world. Love is the answer always, but it starts with loving yourself. Do something loving for yourself, compassionate for yourself, nurturing for yourself, and then get the support you need so that you can compassionately communicate with the people in your life and have a better life for yourself, whether they're in your life or not. Even if you don't compassionately communicate with them, but you do this work inside of you, it gives you more freedom to be happy, healthy, liberated, and free. That's what I hope for you. I'd love to help. Bye for now.